the show. I am Rebecca Juna. Today we review the NRM manifestos over the years in regards to women's land rights and see, have our land rights been acknowledged? Have they been documented? Have we gained out of this NRM movement? Remember that when a government is elected into power, democratic process, the manifesto tends to influence the national development plan and also indirectly influence the donor strategic plans. Today, we take you on a journey of when NRM came into power and what it has been able to do or not do for the women in regards to their land rights. Welcome to the show, women.
Thank you.
I hope you had a good day.
Yes.
Okay. I'm joined by Hellena Sakisa, a program lead at Dwona Initiative. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you,
As a
Becky.
woman, do you own land?
Soon I'll be on.
Okay. And Vanessa Esther from Hands for You Foundation.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Babra Nyeko is a lawyer, so she'll give us the legal framework. So we look at the legal framework, we look at the policy framework, we also look at the planning and implementation and institutional frameworks for land in this country and where the women's needs start from and end, but with reference to the NRM manifesto. So, ladies, have you heard about the NRM manifesto? Do you know about the NRM manifesto? What do you know about the NRM? Start with you, Barbara.
Thank you so much to the viewers out there. I must recommend the manifesto under the leadership of NRM, that it has actually been that inclusive. Uganda as a country is a very, it's concerned about the women of this country. In the manifesto, it does talk about land being owned by both the women and the men. Why does it go that extra mile? Addressing the challenges that we have faced over time. Yeah, we realize that I am Piloya, but probably, more, I can't even own land. Yeah, by virtue of being a girl, or even if I don't get married, yeah, I'll still not own land. Let's say there let's say I then, unfortunately, a man has not come for my hand in marriage and I'm still at home, land is being sold, it's going to be in the names of my brothers, and and that is, so NRM comes in the manifesto to handle such questions, to address them, to say that, look a minute, when we look at Article 337, yeah, it is bringing about, that we are the people of Uganda and land belongs to all of us. And so if land belongs to all of us, then the women are part of the us. So they are supposed to be included in the question. It ideally also addresses that question when it comes to selling of this land. A lot of women face this challenge, that your brothers go to the you get back home and the family is sitting to sell land. A mother is not having a say because of the patriarchal society that we then lived in. The effect still lives. So because you don't have a say, a land is going to be sold, a land is going to be given, or even the proceeds of that land is going to be given, shared among brothers, yeah, and the clan members. So in the manifesto, which I did read and I subscribe to, does say that land, it actually discourages the fragmentation of land. Let us not divide this land, yeah, as a family. Let us have this land and think of a plan within the same land. Now, if we come up with that plan, then we have the proceeds shared among the family members. So talking about the manifesto, it addresses this question and it is very, very much inclusive. This manifesto aligns with other rights that we do have. Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Yeah, when we look at Article 17 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it still tells us that we have the ownership of property. Yeah. So when the addressers of these manifestos sat down, they put into consideration, yeah, what they subscribe to, that we subscribe to these other laws, And so if it is saying that the properties are for all of us, then how do we include the women? The women have been included. Even over time, looking at the same manifesto, about 106 billion is rendered to the women, in their entrepreneurship kind of, projects to help the women, uplift them, to help them have the ability to acquire land.
Okay.
So looking at the manifesto, to me, it addresses that issue. Yeah.
Okay. Sakisa, in 2006, I think that was Prosperity for All. The NRM manifesto under land said there was an impasse between landlords and Vivanja holders, as the landlords could not use the land profitably, and the Vivanja holders have no money to buy the land they are on. NRM promised to expand the land fund to pay off the landlords at market price and allocate and process land titles for the bona fide Vivanja holders. That was in 2006. I don't know where you were in 2006. That was the manifesto.
I was in P1.
You were in P1 in 2006.
P1.
Okay. Currently, if we and I know the older generation will take this up in regards, because some of the things happened long before we were born.
Yes.
Yeah. So in regards to this, because that's the beautiful thing about documenting of manifestos and the work that the NRM is doing. Do you believe that the NRM has done something around the Vivanja holders and the women Vivanja holders, to get titles so that they can own property and then influence production?
I think the NRM has done something because in that same manifesto, it talked about having creating district land tribunal, and I think the district land tribunal was kind of equipped to help the women have the access to land, but also it's a question of how effective has it been, because we have seen that even when they say that the women will have the ownership through the Vivanja thing holders, but still we have to put into place that there are two dynamics that are at play. That is the power dynamics and the traditional dynamics. And for the traditional dynamics, it says we have come up in a patriarchal society where women are not given the access to own this land. And then for the power dynamics, do they have the power? Do they have the resources to claim this land? I think that's also the question that we have to pose in regards to that manifesto.
Okay, I'll go to you, Vanessa. In 2011, the manifesto, the Peace and Unity Transforming for Prosperity, NRM recommendations in regards to land said NRM would construct 9 regional land offices and equip them. It also said it will complete computerization of the land registry and decentralize the management of land records. Okay, but then also said it will roll out systematic demarcation in Uganda, roll out land information systems to 6 district land offices, increase the land fund to enable bona fide occupants since 2006 to acquire full ownership rights through acquisition of land titles. In your experience, do you think that the NRM has lived to its manifesto of 2011 in regards to women's rights with what it recommended?
Firstly, when we talk about computerizing the system of land ownership, you need to put into consideration that most people who own the land are not in urban areas, they're in rural areas. They are doing agricultural practices, and this land is not even theirs to own. So when we talk about women's rights and someone wanting to come through and say that they want to computerize or to bring in new technologies that will allow for better record keeping, when the women that they are trying to do this for don't even know the first thing about technology in it of itself is flawed. Second thing, when it comes to the funds, honestly, I have not seen any. As a young lady living here in this country who has a mother and a grandmother and even a great-grandmother, I have never heard of any of them speak about any land funds. I have heard of pension, but I have not heard of land funds. So in my experience, I would say the system in it of itself has not been effective. It favors more of the patriarchy, number one. When it comes to a woman owning land, it is very difficult unless you are well learned and probably have acquired a sense of a good career. You cannot say that you can own land in any sense, because we are governed by the traditional and cultural norms that we have grown up seeing. I believe all of you have grown up seeing, and this in it of itself plays a key role in land ownership. You will find a woman who is married and is widowed, and they still have problems with land because because traditionally it is the eldest uncle, eldest brother-in-law. It might not
Has the
even be
Succession
older.
Act come in to address some of those
Yes,
issues?
the Succession Act has tried to address these issues, but they have not been successful. The traditional aspect has failed them to curb or work around, I would say. Yeah.
All right. And maybe that is something that we'll throw the ball to not only government but also to the leaders to be able to tell the people about the Succession Act and the regulations that are there, because we can't have women now go back to to suffering. Yet there is a law that helps them acquire property, though we have issues around cohabitation.
Yes.
And Barbara, I'll come to you as a person that has a legal background, and we are reviewing the Succession Act in regards to women land rights. How therefore do we now inform the public that the woman has her right to land, but then for those that are cohabiting, what do we do for them when a spouse goes away or a spouse gets sick and like terminal illnesses, and the family, you see, they're trying to take all the property from the woman? What do we tell them?
Well, that is it's very, very interesting. Oftentimes we actually have discussions surrounding that, and ladies are very, very bitter.
Yes.
Like, honestly speaking, you've come to me, you've loved me, I have loved you back, and probably in the process of doing the due diligence, let's say, which is marriage, things do not work out because the law then says that you are only entitled to a man's property when he has legally married you. Yeah. But looking at our context, Uganda, a lot of people do cohabit. Even in my own tribe, I would say it's very, very common. I am actually in my tribe, it's very, very key. Majority of our mothers are not married. Yeah. So somebody has kids. You have about 6 children. Others even have 8. Now, at the end of it all, your spouse has passed on. You're supposed to take care of these other kids. But this land, this only resource that you would use probably to cultivate on, and educate your children is being taken away by your so-called husbands, in the clan. I think that is not being fair enough on the women. Yeah. It is, yes, cohabitation, but I have something I have something to show. I have kids, I have them to take care of. What do you expect me to do? Do you expect me to live bare hand? Okay, leaving that context, we're seeing only about 7% of women holding land
Yes.
in Uganda.
Yes.
Yeah. But we're also saying that how do we then increase that? Because we are saying land is a major factor of production.
Yes.
Yeah. So in equality, as we also move towards equality, how do we include the women? How do we make them part of of the prosperity of the future being secured? Yeah.
Yes.
So let us make them have that ownership. Yes, we have cohabited, but for how long? Yeah. What do I have to show? Yeah. That should be put into consideration.
Yes. What does one have to show?
What does one have to show? So I think that law and has to be reviewed a bit,
exactly.
and the women be inclusive.
Yes.
We are saying that in as much as the cultural bit will not be looked down on.
Yes.
the cultural people should also sit. The laws, the cultures have been set by our people. Yeah, and it has been set in the best interest of the people. So if it is then affecting them, then the cultural leaders then should also look at a way of, maneuvering through to make things work for the women. Yeah.
But can I say something small?
And I want to ask you this, because if we're having 75% of women contribute to labor and food production, but they are not owning the land, their percentage of owning land is low, then aren't we enslaving women?
We are.
Definitely.
Yeah, because they are producing for who?
For us.
They're producing, but what percentage is remaining to them?
It's little.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if they are not landowners, then
Then
they are just slaves.
slaves, yes.
Working in the land for other people's profit.
Now we
Yes.
shall sing for them, slave straight.
In America. This context will be Uganda.
Yes.
Yes, but you see, something concerning land, even before I go to my question, I wanted to speak something about the cohabitation. If we want a reform on marriage, that means we have to recognize cohabitation, cohabiting parties, because many of the women are cohabiting. We are recognizing that many of the young people are cohabiting. But in us seeking to have a reform on marriage in context of cohabitation, we are having to fight two giants. That is religion and tradition. For religion, many of us are Christians. We subscribe to Christianity, where it says no cohabiting.
Yeah.
So we say you've been cohabiting with this man who is from this Christian family, and the parents are like, we do not recognize you as a wife to our son. That means you're going to be cut off from ownership of land. Then tradition, there's a case, I don't remember the case, but it spoke about,
Regardless of how much you've invested in
yes,
that land.
Yeah.
there's a case about, is it Enid and John Bosco, something of that sort, where John Bosco and Enid were in a relationship cohabiting, but then it seemed John Bosco did not customarily give bride price to the family of the girl. And so when it reached to the extent of property or ownership of land, the girl was not given. Why? Because to them, traditionally, she was not recognized as the official wife. So I think something of law reform concerning marriage and cohabiting, it is something that is fighting. And then back to my question. I think it's high time even the court itself or government and institutions lay mechanisms on how better they can give women access to these pieces of land or ownership of land. Come up with policies that favor women. Yeah? Because there are policies that are there. Maybe let us speak about the Succession Act. But how effective has it been? Or even which percentage of women do know about this act? For we may be speaking about the Succession Act. The Succession Act, it gives women a right to own ownership of land, but many of them do not know. Actually, even maybe when we speak about it, we even go to the grassroots and speak about it, they will be surprised. They will like, oh, so I think it is also high time that we properly disseminate this information of how women have the rights to ownership of land and how they can stand up and own land and also how they can productively
Use the land. Okay, thank you so much, Hellena. Back to you, Vanessa. In 2016 to 2021 manifesto, it was steady progress. The NRM under Lands, Housing and Urban Development, their chapter 16 said they would implement additional initiatives required to create an efficient and effective land administrative system.
Yes.
I don't know, do you believe that they have performed on that point?
I believe they have tried.
What percentage would you give them?
I would give them a 15%.
15%.
No, that's being generous.
Mm.
Yes. That's being very generous.
Okay. They also say they would implement the national land policy and reform the relevant laws to be cognizant of it. Do people even know the national land policy?
Personally, I do not believe they know the land policy.
Okay. I think this is something we throw the ball back to the legal people, but also back to Parliament.
Yes.
Because when we are looking at the policy and institutional and planning and legal frameworks,
Yes.
different places take different things.
In addition to that, most people don't know about these policies because they're not taught. And they're not taught for a reason.
For a reason.
I will put a question mark there. You will go and find out why.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not taught for a reason. These are certain things that people should be learning from an early age. From the time you reach senior one. These are the kinds of politics that people should know to protect themselves when they're older. Apart from the women's rights, policies on land, policies on how the government is run, how you should pay your taxes. These are things that you should learn way before you even go to university.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, our system is flawed.
All right. They also said
something.
Oh, please, yes.
I think there are actually policies that does govern that, but the challenge comes in implementation.
Yes.
Looking at the 2021 to 2026 manifesto, the president does talk about, he encourages and that.
Well, in 2016, 2021.
Okay, 2016 to 2021
manifesto.
Right, it's still we are still looking at it in coordination with the 2021 2026 manifesto. So in the 2016 to 2021 manifesto, it still does try and settle some of the issues. I want to say that the policies are there and the laws are really clear.
Yes.
As to the implementation, it is incumbent upon those that are in that docket.
The institutional and the planning.
Yeah, institution and the planning. So I would say maybe we ought to let the public understand what are those laws that are there, how best can we implement them, and those who are in that docket do what is expected of you. Yeah. So then we can achieve. For example, we are here discussing. We know one or two things about the manifesto. We know a bit of the law, the legal framework guarding this. We know that a woman is also entitled. Can you go back to your village and talk to these people? We start one by one, and collectively we can achieve.
All right. Yeah. Okay. The other thing they talked about is undertake systematic registration of individual and communally owned land. So when systematic registration and it means that they know that you're Barbara.
Yes.
Barbara, this is
you
her acre of land. But are we seeing this really turn into people? Because one of the things I've seen is that somebody says, oh, this was my land, but there's another person that comes and says it's their land. LC one chairperson
and has all the titles.
How then are we seeing and saying to the NRM, but you said systematic registration, but women are having issues with their land?
Yes, very, very true.
Yes. Okay. First and foremost, a land question is a very pertinent issue that, if not addressed now, may never be addressed. But also addressing it requires a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll address our mind to an ongoing land issue that is a per land issue. Now, this question is between the Madis and the Cholis. One is saying we own this land, another one is saying, we own this land. Yeah. So it's incumbent upon the institutions that are responsible to come and help these people. Yeah. To access this. I don't know if I got you right.
Yes.
But what I'm also saying is that in as much as you're buying land, you're going to buy land, before you do buy land, there is what we call search. In a search, it involves you going to ask the local person, your LC,
Yes.
the government has extended LC ones, to even that level. Ask that person you want to buy land in that area. Does this person have this land?
Yes.
Do your due diligence. Once you've done that, proceed to the next step.
Yeah.
So when you do all those necessary stages, which require sensitization meanwhile for the
Yes.
community to be aware of these stages, and then before they do acquire the land, it is going to help you to understand, does this person have the land? Your buying the land does not make you an owner of such a land. You must have a title of a land. And
But if I've given my money
Before.
if I've given my money and you're saying I'm not the buyer of the land, how does the viewer out there internalize that?
There are a lot of it. Like, I can buy land. You can come and buy the same land. I mean, there have been a lot of questions. Like, the four of us can buy one land. And mind you, we can all have the titles of the land. You're getting? Now, that is a challenge that the community out there are facing. Because people are so desperate. They want money. So I'll sell to you probably when we have an agreement with you. It's a contract.
Yes.
You fail to fulfill your own part of the bargain. I give out to someone who has, I getting. So the owners of the land are doing that. So the manifesto of 2021-2026 does say that, can we help those ones who bought land? I would now want to say fraudulently, like they bought the land, others bought in the know. Meanwhile, there are two people here. There's a buyer who buys knowing that I'm buying this land and it has already been bought. Now, if you did buy a land knowing that this land was bought, they don't refund you. You've bought it fraudulently. So that means, in as much as you go ahead and have a certificate, that's not valid. It is not valid. So that is how, of course, it's a whole legal docket and it has a lot of issues within. But what I'm saying is, if you know that a land has already been bought, help yourself and don't buy such land, because the manifesto talks about it. If you do that, then the measure that shall be taken will be the legal, measure. And also, you, that's the owners of the land. Yes. We are not saying that do not sell your land. Probably people sell land because of various issues. Someone is having health issues that you can't even help at that moment. Someone say, okay, this is the only property that I have. The Constitution also says, okay, I mean, the manifesto says, if you're willingly selling it and somebody is willingly buying it, it is okay. But it discourages you selling your land, and having to dividing land amid the families. It discourages that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We also have implement a program of action for strengthening institutions and mechanisms for land dispute resolution and mediation at the local government level. Do we believe that at local government level, and over to you, Sakisa, that the RDCs plus the police plus the LC ones are doing a good job resolving land issues? Because these are institutions that are working together.
To some extent.
Even don't forget the surveyors.
To some extent, I do not believe they're doing, because that group of the institution, they target the vulnerable person in the card of the land rights, and you see that if the vulnerable person is the woman, they will find a way of how to pinch her politically, economically, that she feels frustrated to leave the land. Because one thing is, I know that LC1 chairpersons are very knowledgeable about issues of land. And LC1 will tell you, this one, they sold that land.
Not all.
Yes, okay, not all, but some of them.
Yes.
Some of them. And the RDCs, they have the power. They have the muscle of power. And the police, they have the muscle, the power, and also they have the muscle of the money. And you see, in regards to women's right, you find that the women are vulnerable. Let's take an example of a rural woman. She has gotten this land. Her husband passed away. She has gotten this land, and the in-laws want the land. The in-laws have the muscle of power and money. Yeah?
Influence.
She for her, and also they have the muscle of
Break
tradition.
down the power that you're talking about.
The power I'm talking about first, the patriarchy system.
Because for a viewer out there might not understand what a patriarchy system is, we can talk about money, we can talk about networks, we can talk about influence.
Yes.
Yeah.
The position.
The position they hold in society.
Yeah. So for the power bit of it is the patriarchy system where the men have seen dominant. And the men, we have grown up in societies where the men are the ones to own.
Yes.
Yeah. So the in-law is coming to her, and already tradition has given her a card and a side to choose.
Yeah.
So it is very hard for that woman to come out of that shelf strong, because she will be pinched. And that's why I'm saying, to a big extent, I do not feel the institutions of police, the RDC, the LC ones have done their best. It is lacking, and terribly lacking. And it is high time that they effectively see how best they can help these people. Not only look at, oh, this gender has the money, the power, oh, tradition says this and this, but they see how can they create fairness.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, increase the amount of money allocated to the land fund. Do we believe that the land fund's budget is well, financed? And I will come back to you, to Vanessa, because this is 2016 manifesto.
Yeah.
Have we financed that in terms of monitoring, in terms of audits, in terms of financing to even do the work that they have told us? Do you believe that the government has allocated enough funds to the land fund?
I believe government is doing the best it can, and in that sense, I believe that it is trying, but the funds that they have allocated are not nearly enough.
Okay. Okay, I'll come back to you, Barbara. We're still in 2016 Plenary Manifesto, because we are holding the government in power accountable, because it is democratic elected. So we believe the rule of the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we continue to enforce the law to protect the rights of lawful and bona fide tenants. Does the government, through this NRA manifesto of 2016, has it been able to enforce the law to protect the rights of lawfully and bona fide tenants?
Thank you so much. This question is a huge question that now dwells much on the cultural ownership of land. If you understand,
system,
yes, the tenure system. We look at they're called the Bibanja elders, So, of course, as we are following the 2016 manifesto, it is now followed up in this other manifesto that follows,
Yeah.
So when I look through these 2021, 2026 manifesto, it's trying to help those who maybe forcefully lost their land to regain it. And it's also saying that you're willing to now sell your land, if somebody can willfully buy it from you for as long as you're selling. I think that is actually helping to address that question in that regard. But again, we are not saying that we're going to say vacate your land, blah blah blah, and such happen. No, there is that willful ownership now. Let your land go at your will, because you know why it's actually going.
Yeah.
Wherever it is,
Okay. So we look at some of the achievements from the National Planning Authority. We are seeing that there has been a draft national land eviction guidelines. Are these guidelines being followed, especially for the vulnerable groupings of women, let's say widows? Because now we have the guidelines to be able to, if you're going to evict somebody, these are the rules and regulations. But are they being followed? Over to you, Sakisa.
Okay, recently when I was traveling, I in Uganda, there is a lady, a old lady who was telling me about that same issue. And you posing to me that question had just reminded me the whole conversation we are having about that eviction process. And she was like, it's not being followed. Actually, sometimes it's just ambush. For her, to her, it was an ambush. She did not know that it was going to happen. It was an ambush. So I think if there are guidelines, then why not follow them and implement them? Yes. Notify the occupants of the land. Tell them this is, and give them time to prepare themselves. Because you see, you may notify them and just leave them blah until the time you're coming to evict, but notify them and tell them, we give you a week or 2 weeks or a month so that they prepare themselves. People are attached to land. Land is an asset people are attached to. And I think while carrying out evictions of people from land, I think that should be put into consideration. And also, when we are putting that into consideration, we should also put the compensation part of it. You see, we sometimes tell them, sometimes the authorities tell them, we are going to compensate you. But the compensation is not there. It's not seen. Actually, this old lady told me that they had told them they are going to compensate them. But they have never. They have never.
And they took the land.
And they took the land.
But in terms of compensation, also the value of the land, we need to also see the value of the land. Some people hike their prices to a land that is supposed to be like, let's say 20 million. You find it at 200 million. So how are we going to address that? And
you know, just to add on to what she has said, something terrible happened. It's still in the Palan issue. It's a very big question in northern Uganda that actually caused a walk. You know, people had to, including the chief, the Kabaka, who actually called him Rot, had to foot. You know, because it was really a very pertinent issue. That people were being convicted. The people had stayed on this land for this long. You know, and you know, culturally, the things we also dear to ourselves. Let's say the grave side. You know, we have something called a bila, and you know, flashing back in our cultural heritage, how things were, the things that used to really so much matter. We used to pray to those people whenever there was a crisis. There were always where you would seek refuge. You get so Abila is part of it. Now, if you're telling the people of Apa vacate here, yeah, and you're not giving them a solution after them vacating, it's really unfair in a way. And it's actually inhumane. Because then where are they going? Talking about the compensation. Okay, I want to think that after compensating them, where are they going? Can you help them to locate where else they would go? Yeah. I think that one does make sense. You make the follow-up. Okay, take them to this place. If let's say the government is interested in using this docket.
But Barbara, if they've given you money and you've gotten your money, before can't you know that I am going to use this money to do
but
this?
How much money am I given? I'll give an example. Which was it about? People are supposed to be compensated about 200,000. Now tell me how much 200,000 can help you. Yeah, acquire a land,
A piece of land.
piece of land. You are not going to just acquire that land. You're going to have to settle. You're going to have to then pay your children fees. I get it.
Yes.
So I don't think that is compensation enough. There is something more to it that has to be done. Yeah, that's in my opinion.
In addition to that, in my village where I come from, Bali, a road was being constructed in one of the rural areas. But the one thing I appreciate the government for doing was that wherever the roads were being constructed, they were going to encroach on people's land. And before even they had started to do any work whatsoever, before they even brought surveyors, the first thing they went to do was talk to the community members, understand how much land is going to be taken off, and give compensation.
For that, yeah.
Full compensation. Of course, it was not the same amount, but it was equal, depending on how much land was being encroached on for
That's
the
UNRWA
road.
and Ministry
Yes.
of Works.
So they did a really good job in compensating various communities. Some of that money went, some people relocated, yes, they had to relocate, found other places to live, and others just improved on whatever they had already there because they did not take all their land. Case in point, where I come from. So yes, the compensation issue is very, very how should I say?
Crucial.
Very crucial. But the money will not always be the same because with land, certain areas may be more affected than others.
For example, let's say it's even wetland.
Yeah.
Be legally on that land.
Exactly. So all those factors have to come into play when you're talking about compensation issues when it comes to land. Yeah.
Wow. The land issue is just a deep one. Eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just to maybe pose a question to us and maybe also the viewers, that do you think that we should individually still own land, or land should be left in the hands of the government?
I think for me, because now you're giving, isn't that socialism? You're bringing an aspect of socialism, right? Or communism. But because we have said it's the reason as to why we're having this discussion is that we want women to be empowered to have their own thing. So that they can be able to also develop. You cannot go and control what the government controls.
Yeah, you can't.
You will dance to their tune.
Exactly.
We're bringing up the aspect of colonialism, how they would have the whole land to themselves and tell us to pay taxes. No. And I think Vanessa can give you her own perspective, but me, no.
Honestly,
No.
No.
Should be left to be individually
Yeah.
owned.
Yes,
It
yes.
should be
Yeah.
individually
And-
owned.
and-
Because the government doesn't work in that land.
Yeah.
The government hasn't invested its time, energy, and money there for it to benefit from the works of the land.
But do you realize we are the government?
Yes.
Thank you.
In a certain sense.
But we are saying we
socially
are a
speaking,
democratic
yes.
government. Democracy is complicated, but we are saying we are a democratic government.
But
the
we
rule
are
of the
the government.
majority.
We are the government ourselves. Anyways, that's
So, Sakisa, what do you think about the government owning the whole land?
No.
Because now we are making women poorer.
Yeah.
They're already poor with this in democracy
Yes.
and capitalism. Now you want to give them communism and socialism.
No, what I am thinking is that yes, the women are supposed to own land, just as per the constitution that stipulates that. But we are also now looking at the docket of in the ownership of that said land. We looked at inheritance and we looked at cohabitation.
Yes.
That where someone is cohabiting, blah, 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 and all that. But we're letting alone the issue of when the government now wants to, let's say, develop. Don't you think that's going to put some stringent measures on development?
I don't. I just don't want to go into socialism and communism. I want to. Yes, capitalism is hard, but when you have your land and you put you can decide based on what you want to either put up your house or put up your rentals or lease the land. But whose land are you going to lease? Government land, and who is leasing it, and who is in power, and who is the president, and who is the LC one?
And then you also have to
But
think
do
about
you realize that there's some government owned land that we have within?
Yes, we do have these lands, and they have their role. But for what is for the give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar,
Yes.
And to God
Okay.
what belongs to God.
and to God what belongs to God.
So for those who have settled on the government lands for quite long, and probably they even have their attachment to the said land, what happens to them?
There is a law. Why are you in government land? What are you doing in government land? That's why we are saying that women's rights. What happens actually to those women that are tenants on government land? How best then do we help them? And what does the NRM manifesto say? Because the NRM manifesto is now what the people have said in courts, because we are going by democracy, by the rule of the majority. And that's why we are reviewing this NRM manifesto to come and ask you and give us a solution to those women that are on government land, that have spent there some time.
Yes.
What are the solutions you are giving to government to ensure that they are maybe transferred to another land? Because you might find there were refugees, there were, there were widows that were chased out of their land. So where do we put them?
So,
that goes back to
I will then answer that.
Persons with disabilities.
First and foremost, like we have said, that they've settled on a government land, probably unknowingly, or probably the ancestors settled knowing that this is a government land. And now they're a victim of whatever they don't know. Others are busy fighting, okay, this is my land, this is my land. And coupled with the attachments that they already have or they already had. I think the best way, and I looked at somewhere in the manifesto says that ADR would do. Yeah? Can we sit with these, the Cholis call it matoput, yeah? Sit with these people and negotiate. Let them understand. First, let them understand, because really, for us, we understand what is there, the laws that are that addresses such issues. But the community out there do not understand. Someone will tell you, this is my land. This is our land. Our great-father lived here. Was here. You know. You can even tell the whole.
The great-father told them that is their land.
And is willing to die for such a land. Because really, I don't know, and because I don't know, you should help me to understand all this process. So I think the best way is help these people understand, negotiate with them. Yeah, if they say, I think we can then get for them where to settle. Yeah.
Okay, we look at. I think government prepared a gender land strategy to address the gender needs. But do you think that this gender land strategy, and to you, Vanessa, has been disseminated? Is it working in regards to what is happening with the women and land?
I believe that gender land strategy isn't working. It's not working, because if it were working, our women would have what? Land. We would not be here discussing the reasons why women are being what? Unfairly treated and evicted from what should be their property. So in my opinion, the Gender Land Act is not working.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Sakisa, how best then does government sit and disseminate and also enforce the gender land strategy?
Yeah, okay. First, I think we should recognize that the biggest stakeholders of land are the grassroots people. So we should go back to the grassroots and know, or we can find like better ways in form of maybe language, how to disseminate this information about this gender land strategy, going to those women-led grassroots organizations, even men-led, because we do not want to just have a thing of we are fronting women to fight for land, but we also want to have men on board and call them our male champions on our allies on her, and they can also help in fronting that it is good for a woman to to own land. And then another thing, look at maybe the district level. How best can we engage the district and tell them about how this gender land strategy, and how best can they also disseminate or find sections in that land strategy of implementation. And then we look at then the national wise, because we may speak about the grassroots, the district level, and the national wise, yet our members of parliament even may not be knowing the gender land strategy. So it's also high time that the MPs, our members of parliament, also be taught these things. And we see and also put up debates on how better women can own or have land rights in the nation.
Okay. And that is,
Maybe
yes.
maybe to add on something, I think all that goes to mindset change
Yes.
of the community members and the
Yes.
people in leadership.
Yes.
There are lots of people that are all leadership. I mean, there are leadership positions that start right from the village level and comes up to the national level. I think there is need to sensitize those people, to help them, empower them, to help address these land issues right from the grassroots.
Yes.
Still in the mindset, can we be in position to have your conscience, your integrity, speak to yourself? While we talks about the LC ones, those who are blinded by the money,
Yeah.
the little money that, probably sell your land, give it other, the other, there is my percentage.
Yeah.
So to address all those issues, let us work on our mindset. Let us work on our integrity.
Okay. We go to 20. We have the 2020. The last manifesto was so broad, but also this one of 2021, 2026 is where I think we shall be concluding and just go to the things and dive deeper. And one of the things it says dealing with the land fragmentation, and I think we are supposed to have a midterm review of if it's actually working at the moment. Because now we're going to the next election, so the women need to ask. You said you'd deal with the land fragmentation issue. What is on board? So I'll come back to you, Barbara.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on dealing with the land fragmentation issue? And in terms of the midterm review, is the NRM actually addressing the issues of women?
Wow. When it comes to the implementation,
Yeah.
that is where the issue actually comes in. Implementation has become implementation because we have spoken. People have spoken, people are still speaking, and if we don't act, actually, people will still speak, which I think that is not the case. Looking at that in the land fragmentation, this happens majorly in the rural areas. The rural people are the ones who are still in ownership of, large chunks of land.
Yes.
So people are dividing land. Give me my share, I sell it off. I have a lot of challenge that I'm actually facing. My kid, you may find your brother is there, cannot help you to pay your kid, to school. He's well off, but he also has his family to take care of. So you're asking the family, give me my share so that I can actually address my issues. Now this leads into the fragmentation. So what they are saying, looking at what the manifesto says, or it said earlier on, is that do not divide this land. Own it as shares. So as you own this land as shares, have something that you'll do on this land.
Yes.
Let's say agriculture. You can. I think that is where the idea of PDM came from. Of course, that's a topic for another day as to whether it has been achieved.
Yes.
But we are saying have something to do on this land, and own the shares and share the proceeds, but do not divide the land. But the question as to whether the land has been divided or has not been divided still lingers around. People have still divided land amidst themselves. People are buying motorcycles, they're dying, they're using the land in any way they want. So if we continue doing that, shall we still have the land?
Okay, and I'll come to you, Vanessa. The thing of land and us owning it communally, as maybe a family, instead of dividing the land for economic activity.
Yes.
But remember, in the family, the woman is the one that is what? She does not own the land. The owner of the land does what? Those dynamics.
Yes.
The owner of the land is there. So how then do we remind our NRM people and say, now with this manifesto you gave us, with your gender strategy that you gave us, this might leave the woman behind? Because if we all agree and say, okay, we are going to plant coffee on that land, then how do we divide that money? Over to you, Vanessa.
I would say when it comes to the Gender Land Act that the government has had in place, and with what you have said in relation to that, there is no easy way to do it, and there has to be a way in which the government can come in and defend the rights of this woman and be like, this woman is the one doing most of the work. There have to be policies that should be put in place to protect this woman, even as she is as she is working in the garden. Such that if the time comes and we are reaping the benefits at the end of the day, we decide that the person who has worked the most is the one who gets the benefits. This person has been seen by community members every day, taking the hoe to the garden to what? To put in the work, to feed the children. Very willing. Perhaps the children have been going with her. They have been going with her every morning. Like my grandmother used to do with my mother. They would go every morning, 5 a.m. before you go to school. You must dig, you must work for your what? For your meal, for that day. So, in such a sense, if a person is to go and lay claim and be like, yes, I worked for this, they may ask for witnesses. Witnesses are there, and they can attest to the fact that this lady worked for it. We can have a system in place that is both easy to understand and easy to manage.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I will come to you, Sakisa. The NRM manifestos are so many. We have really, I don't know if we've gone back to the one when of 1996. They have so many. But then he says all the NRM team says dealing with land issues, ownership, access, use, security, and fragmentation. So one of the things that we need, and the NRM suggested, is complete review of land regulations, like the bills. Now we go back to the legal and policy frameworks. We have the Surveyor Registration Act. We have the Survey Act. Are all these things, is Parliament, are you seeing Parliament do something about the land? Because it says it will complete review of land regulations. And that now we push the ball back to Parliament. And we are mid-term review of their manifesto and what they are doing. Because they're coming back soon. Next year they're starting to campaign.
To a very big extent, I do not see that that has not been implemented. So this poses still a question to us, even to the members of Parliament especially. They have been having debates. They have been having sittings. But have they been having any sitting that concerns land in regards to women's rights? I think it's high time they highlighted the needs of the different groups of people in the nation or in the districts or constituencies they come from, and look on how they can address these issues. Because I know to every member of Parliament, there is an issue regards to land. So it is just a high time that they sat down and they, before even going for their midterm review, and looked at how best they can do better in regards even to their leadership strategies. Because this all goes back and points to their leadership and on how they have been able to advocate, to also make sure that they lower all the normal citizen has a say.
Thank you so much. And we are towards the close of this time. This land issue is so deep, and as we reflect on those manifestos that they have, and what are your calls to action? And I'll start with you, Barbara. What is your call to action to, because we want to see that it's to the grassroots level, because the LC1 chairpersons tend to cause a lot of problems. They say that they write for people all the time in regards to women's rights. What's your call to action to government in regards to the LC1 level?
First and foremost, the leaders that we elect as LC1s, let us elect those who are, okay, we are towards the election of LC1 leadership at the local level, and even the women leadership, So can we elect those who can stand their ground? Because These LC ones, you don't need to go to school to be an LC one.
Mm.
There are those who know this land question. They know that so and so settled here, yeah, and can get this. They know that if so and so has this character, yeah, and they're the ones that handle those issues, right, from the local level. They're the ones that can, their stamps are necessary whenever a land is being sold. Yeah. So can we elect the right leaders? After electing them, can we sensitize them on these bases? Yeah. Of course, we shall decentralize the sensitization regionally to even that LC1. We go to the councillors. We go to the women leaders. Women, can you wake up and stand for your fellow women? We are the perpetrators of these laws that sometimes affect us the most. As women, a woman can be pressed. She can be, our minds can be triggered and derailed from the rightful path. So as the women leaders at the district, in parliament or wherever, can we, if they cannot, can the government sensitize them? Yeah. Avail them with the necessary, probably it's because they don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Help them understand these laws and let them come to the grassroots to educate their fellow women. Then they will stand strong and still, even if they face the same, they will follow the right channel. To the RDCs, of course, the presidents, yeah, in every district. As you're there, can you play your role? Can you not take advantage of that that woman who owns land, that widow? You know, to the general now, of course, now to the national level. We're the ones that bring about laws that now does affect those at the community level. Can we stand our ground? Can we advocate for them? Can we help those ones who have cohabitate, who have done cohabitation for quite a long time,
Yes.
and they have the needs to meet? You know, the spouses have gone away. Can we not chase this woman? She has something and a contribution to make, and these children are going to be great. Leaders are great people, and women are the brain behind the great leaders. That means leaders are actually the actual leaders. So can we actually help them to also own something?
Thank you so much, Barbara. Vanessa, you call to action?
Call to action for me would be more in capacity building and mindset change. We need to understand that most women do not even understand that these rights are for them and are there to protect them. So my call to action would mostly be mindset change, in that we provide these women with knowledge. Knowledge is power, people. We all know that. And if these women understand that these policies are there to protect them, if they understand the channels that they should go through to get what they need, they will not have to sit at home and cry and start begging for what is actually theirs to begin with. They will be empowered to stand up, even as a community, as a collective, and say, this is what is being done and we are fighting against it. They'll be able to have campaigns where they are fighting against the patriarchy that is continuously trying to bring them down, continuously trying to be unfair to their needs, unfair to their to their children and to themselves as individuals. So for me, capacity building would be our first call to action.
Okay. Helena, your call to action?
My call to action is just that it is high time the government and the various institutions to help bridge the gaps in the different policies and see how best they can lay better strategies or mechanisms of addressing these issues.
Okay, thank you so much. It's been a very good discussion. It takes some time. Land issues are as they go way back in the 1900 argument to be able to be resolved. But in that regard, we request that government disseminates the gender land strategy and also the compensation of landowners during the time of road construction, that is to Union Ministry of Works,
Yes.
especially to the women, those widows, the widows that are on their land. And police should help widows whose children are beating them to get off the land. We have a problem of widows being beaten by their own children so that they can be able to get off land and disseminate the National Land Eviction Guidelines, the Surveys Regulation Act, and the Survey Act. Till next time, I'm Turyatunga Rebecca Juna. Good evening.